IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy, actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with books. Did you know that there are about 755,700 books published each year? Now, this number has been steadily decreasing over the years. However, that is still an insane amount of books. To put things in perspective, if you were some kind of genius kid that read a book every single day from the time you were born and you lived to a ripe old age of 71, you would have needed 27 lifetimes to read all the books published in just 1 year. In 2010, the total number of books ever published had been 129,864,888 books. For this number, you would have to live 4,744 lifetimes. 4,744 lifetimes to read all the books ever published. So clearly there's no shortage of books and information out there. In the last podcast, we discussed the habit of speed reading and going through a book quickly so that you get to the essence of what is written, especially when you're reading nonfiction. But there's a bigger problem that I see taking place, especially with new readers, people who are just getting into the habit of reading. And if this is you, please listen up. What often happens is that we begin to lose interest halfway through a book. It no longer captivates us, and we just want to get done with it. There is an obsession of completing a book, because if you don't read a book cover to cover, it's some kind of failure on your part as a reader. But the truth is that if you lose interest midway through a book, it is the failure of the writer. It is their job to make sure that you feel the need to know what they have written. It is their job to entertain you as a reader to finish the book. So many writers don't write for their readers, and this is true. There are books that are just PR exercises where they talk about themselves and how great they are, etc., and send pages upon pages talking about the things that are irrelevant to you as a reader. And these books are written for their egos. My point is that you have to become aware of why you're reading. You are the customer of the book, and remember, the customer is always right. If the book does not live up to your expectations, if you feel bored reading it, if you feel the story is going nowhere, if you're not learning anything from it, just let it go. Put it back on the bookshelves and forget about it. You have my full permission to stop reading books you do not enjoy. Leave these books halfway through and pick up something new. There is no guilt in this. There is no shame in this. And as your habit coach, I give you full permission to leave a book halfway through. For all the books that I finish reading, there is a whole list of other books that have been left halfway through. And some of these books are international bestsellers, but they did nothing for me. And that is fine. So your super simple habit is to only read things that you receive value from. Do not force yourself to finish a book if there is no value that you're getting from it. Do not feel guilty or bad for leaving a book halfway through. There's no shortage of books out there. Like I said, if you start, you will need 27 lifetimes to read what has been published in just 1 year. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show for those who prefer listening to it in that language. Do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, Dr. Madan Kataria tells Ashdin how laughter yoga came to be. On Pesa Vesa Anupamas Mukesh Kalra, founder and CEO at ET Money, about their new intelligent investment service, ET Money Genius. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth explores the relationship between Twitter, free speech, and Elon Musk. On The Habit Coach, Ashdin shares tips on how to not abandon a new habit midway. And on Say No to Drama, Chetna guides us through a process to better identify our intuition. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're following this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth is one of our biggest, most helpful things you could do for us. We'd really appreciate that. And also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. Go check out ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. You get a list of all of our YouTube channels there. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. This really helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors for this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app.
A wise man once said, "Traveling, it makes you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller."
Well, listen to such travel stories and experiences exploring India on the Musafir Stories with us, Saif and Faiza.
Catch us on the IVM website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.